Hi everybody, my name is Chef Stanley Townsend and we're filming at Nate. We've got a program called Cook It Simple and we're going to keep it simple and we use common ingredients that are found in the Edmonton Food Bank hamper. So, if you're ready, let's start cooking. Okay, so we're back again and last time I was over in the food bank, I looked over in the corner and I seen there's a huge container full of all kinds of bread. And some of the bread is past its prime and some of it's still good, most of it's still good. But one of the dishes I like to make with excess bread is bread pudding. And you can make a beautiful bread pudding. Bread pudding is basically a custard. So we're going to start out with 1 cup of milk. And I've melted about 6 tablespoons of butter in there. And I'm also going to add the juice out of a can of peaches. Now this is a custard, and generally speaking the custard is made of 1 cup of milk and 1 egg. So we've got basically 2 cups, 1 cup of the fruit juice, 1 cup of the milk. We've got some eggs, we need a little sugar in there, put a little bit of sugar in there, and of course bread pudding tastes really good with a little cinnamon. If you had a little bit of vanilla extract, that also goes nicely in there. Now we're just going to whip this all up. Boom, 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 like this. Now, the recipe calls for about 6 slices, more or less, of bread. I elected today, I says, well, I like my bread pudding kind of hunky and chunky, and so these are actually cut up hot dog buns. So I've got about 6 hot dog buns in there. I'm going to put that in there like that. I'm going to mix it up fairly quickly till it's all coated. Once it's all coated, now I want the bread to be a little on the large side because as you can see once we put the milk in there it's going to soften up quite a bit. But once it's all generally mixed and coated like that, we're going to add our milk and fruit juice mixture around there, roughly 2 cups, 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of sugar, or 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of fruit juice, and sometimes very popular put in raisins, but today what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up some diced peaches. The peaches. So you know, you get a can of peaches and you open up the can and 3 or 4 peaches, it's gone. This way it's going to extend it. You're going to have a nice sweet dish that can be either served warm or cold. So there we go, that's all there is to rice pudding. So we'll put that over there. I'm going to ask my assistant to put it in the oven and we'll be back in a second. We're back again and we pulled the bread pudding out of the oven. I let it cool and we dusted it with a little bit of icing sugar and now we're ready to present it. So what I've done is I've taken a little bit of peach yogurt, yummy. I put that onto the bottom of my bowl. And I'm just going to sprinkle with that some of the diced peaches that were left over from the can of peaches. This whole recipe used 1 can of peaches. And I still have peaches left. And we're going to reach into the bread pudding. We're going to bring out a nice generous portion, put that right in the middle. And we're going to serve that. And yummy. Doesn't that look good? Okay, well we're taking a break from our cooking and we're back here with a special guest today. We've got Marjorie Benz from the Edmonton Food Bank. And you know, I just want to say that we're absolutely delighted on behalf of EdmontonChefs.ca, Nate, and the Food Bank to take this special collaborative initiative. So welcome, Marjorie.
Well, thank you. We're the ones that are really privileged to have you stand here doing some great cooking and showing people how they can really maximize what they receive in the hamper, and for those who are not food bank recipients, how they can stretch their grocery dollars.
Stretch the dollar, that's what it's all about today.
And a little bit about Edmonton's Food Bank. We're a central warehouse that we collect and redistribute food to over 210 agencies, churches, and food depots. So when someone makes a donation to us, they could be helping one of those many groups out. And this year, our organization turned 35 years. And
wow.
Yeah, and we started out as a gleaning operation. We glean food from the food industry and turn it over to soup kitchens and shelters, and obviously also use it in the hamper programs, which you're showing as well.
Well, it's excellent. And of course, the economic times now are really putting demands on the food bank. And so I guess we have to learn how to effectively cook. We got to get back in the kitchen and start cooking from scratch again. And that's what we're here about today.
Yes, and the lessons learned today, watching you, Stan, are really important, because it certainly is helpful for people who are low income, helping them stretch their dollar. And of course, we're all being very conscious about our grocery dollars at this time.
Sure. Well, I've often said, Marjorie, it says you give a person a fish, they can eat sushi. You teach them how to cook, they can have fish and chips.
Right on. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we're back again. I'm going to make one of my favorite dishes. I've been cooking this dish ever since I went to college 40 years ago. We used to make big vats of this called beef Macaroni. So what I've started out with about a pound and a half of ground beef. I browned that off, and then I've just generally thrown in whatever vegetables I got. In this case, I've got some onions, I got some red peppers, some green peppers, and of course, it really tastes good if we put a little garlic in there also. You can see that I'm using garlic that comes pre-prepared already. It's nice, easy to use, a couple of bucks a can. Stir that up. I can smell it cooking. We need to add some spice. We'll add some chili peppers, give it a little heat. Of course, it's got an Italian, Mediterranean type of flavor. We're going to add a little bit of oregano. And of course, Canada's two favorite spices, salt and pepper. Now the whole idea is to put those spices in with the food while it's cooking so that it'll really release all the volatile oils in the spices. Now while that's cooking, next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in a can of, or a jar of commercially prepared pasta sauce, a can of crushed tomatoes. Like that. We're going to stir that up and let her simmer. We're going to crank up the heat and we're going to let it simmer. So this should simmer at least a good 20 minutes to develop all the flavors in it. So we'll let her there. Let's go down, crank up that heat. Now while that is cooking, we have some butter. I've taken about 6 tablespoons of butter, put it into this pan. I've got about 1 cup of breadcrumbs. Now what I'm going to do is put the breadcrumbs in with that melted butter. And I'm going to put some Parmesan cheese in here. And I'm just going to cook that up very slowly till it toasts a nice golden brown. And this is an old-fashioned way of making an au gratin. Au gratin means to brown, and the only way you can do it is either with cheese, like on a French onion au gratin soup, or you can do it with this bread and cheese mixture. Now, if you don't have the cheese, just take 6 tablespoons of butter, margarine, oil, melt it off, and you can see it toasts pretty quickly. See that? So once this recipe is cooked, we're going to add the macaroni to it, and we're going to bake it off au gratin. So we'll be back in just a second, and we'll come back and mix up the macaroni. So we're back. The sauce is cooked out. I pre-cooked 2 cups of macaroni in a large amount of water, so I've got about 6 cups of finished product. I pre-cooked that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add all of the sauce. Nice to have a big bowl to mix it in. Add all of that, mix that up. And of course, what's macaroni and cheese or beefaroni without some cheese? So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a generous amount of cottage cheese. And of course, cottage cheese is cheese, fairly inexpensive. It's going to give lots of flavor to our beefaroni. And it's going to melt and provide some cohesion. So generally, when you're cooking the macaroni, about a half a package of the macaroni should fit perfectly into a casserole dish, a large casserole dish. Just smooth that out, pack it down, get as much in there as possible. A little extra in case somebody wants to lick the pot. And we made that au gratin mixture. And what we're going to do with the au gratin is we're going to add a little more flavor and crispness. And we're going to simply do that. We've got a little bit of grated cheese, so what the heck? Why not put some of that on? If you don't have it, you don't have it. But that's what the purpose of this breadcrumb mixture. So we'll sprinkle that breadcrumb mixture all the way over there, and we're going to bake it. Just like that. Use it all. And I've got my helper, Stephanie. She's going to put that in the oven, and we're going to cook it all until it's nicely golden brown. Remember, the macaroni is already ready. So I put that in the oven about 350. We'll come back to that later. So beautiful dish. There's probably enough in there for at least 6 generous meals. So often I can make 2 or 3 meals out of that for a couple of people. So we'll be back. So we're back, and we've cooked this beautiful beefaroni tomato macaroni casserole, and just serve it as it is. And that's just a beautiful, beautiful product. We'll just dig into it to give you an idea of what it looks inside. Nice, piping hot, lots of tomato, lots of beef, lots of flavor. One of my favorite dishes. Enjoy. Okay, so we're back, and we're going to make a dish called corn chowder. Now, all soup starts with a mirepoix of equal parts of carrot, celery, and onion. And we're just going to sweat that off. Usually a chowder contains bacon, but we don't have any bacon in the food bag, so what I did is I cut up a couple of wieners. Of course, kids love wieners. So we'll just dice that up, and we can see that. We'll just sweat that off. And of course, we're going to add a little garlic, as usual, to our, and some of Canada's favorite spices, some salt and pepper. Remember that the wieners are fairly high in salt, so we'll just cook that up like that. Cooking that, letting it sweat off. I can see the steam coming off. I can smell the aroma. Now, once those vegetables are sweated off, we're going to add a thickening ingredient to it, usually equal parts of flour to the butter we put in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put enough flour in there about 6 tablespoons of flour, but general rule of thumb is enough flour makes it look like the first snowfall. So there we go, and we're just going to cook that for a few more minutes till that comes up. And we have some chicken stock here. We're going to really crank that up to high. And we're going to add a couple of cups of chicken stock. Now, You can buy commercial chicken stock, or you can actually make your own out of this chicken base. And it's probably just as effective. So now we're going to add, and we hear the sounds. We know that the vegetables are hot, and we're just going to stir that right up and bring that back to a boil. Now we're going to leave that for a boil, and we'll be right back. And so we're back, and as you can see, the stock and the roux has combined. It's cooking up there nice and thick. So we're going to add some cream corn to this. It's going to be a fairly thick soup. We're going to add some canned corn to it. I think I've got a couple of cans. One can is usually enough, but what the heck. So we're going to put that in there. All of this stuff is found in your hamper. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add these potatoes. Now the potatoes I'm using today are made out of those little potatoes. So we're going to add a bunch of those. So we can see we mix the potatoes in. This is going to make a really, really hearty chowder, especially if you add all of the potatoes to it. Can you see how thick that is? Well, it's much thicker than what we want, but we're going to cook that for a while. And once that comes back up to a bubble, as you can see, it's doing that pretty well. Now I can see some movement in there, see some steam coming off, and we're going to add a couple of tins of evaporated milk. Now the evaporated milk is a little richer than ordinary milk. So there you can see a very beautiful, quick chowder. All it has to do is cook up, and we're going to spike up the seasoning. A little bit of hot sauce, a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, or as they call it in England, Worcester sauce. Put that in there, and we're just going to let that cook, and we'll be right back to serve the soup up. So we're back, and that beautiful chowder has cooked out. Look at that. Now this is chock full. I like to make this pot, and I tell you, it tastes even better the next day. And of course, I like to spike it up. I personally like a lot of pepper, so I'm going to add quite a bit of pepper to it. Pepper and corn seem to taste fine to me. And then we're going to just ladle up a nice bowl like that. And I'm going to tell you, that is some sort of delicious. Doesn't that look great? Kids will love it. They'll pick those little wieners out there. They'll eat their potatoes. One way to get people to eat the vegetables. Lots of vegetables in there. The potatoes, the peppers, the celery, the onions. I'm going to tell you, that is good. Well, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the program today. I hope you've learned how to cook it simple, keep it simple, and I hope you've learned how to cook some of those popular ingredients that are found in the hamper at the Edmonton Food Bank.